Imagine this. You're a two-dimensional creature living on a flat sheet of paper. Your whole world is made up of two directions, left and right, forward and backward. Everything you know exists in this flat plane. Now picture this. A three-dimensional object, like a sphere, suddenly crosses your world. At first you'd see just a tiny dot. Then as the sphere sinks further into your two-dimensional reality, that dot would expand into a circle, getting larger and larger before shrinking back down to a dot and disappearing altogether. To you, this would be nothing short of magical. It would feel like an object had appeared out of nowhere, transformed, and then vanished, something beyond comprehension. But we, living in three dimensions, understand exactly what happened. The sphere merely passed through the two-dimensional world. Now, let's flip this around and imagine that we, as three-dimensional beings, are those flat creatures, unable to see beyond our limited view. What if there were a fourth spatial dimension? We'd be as clueless about it as the two-dimensional beings were about our three-dimensional world. This fourth dimension wouldn't be up, down, or any direction we know. It would be something entirely new. And though it's almost impossible to visualize, we can still use scientific reasoning and some mind-bending analogies to explore what it might be like. One of the best ways to start grasping this concept is through something called a tesseract. Imagine a simple square, a basic two-dimensional shape. When you extend that square into the third dimension, you get a cube. Now, a tesseract is just the next level. It's a four-dimensional extension of a cube. We can't really see a tesseract in its true form, but we can create a shadow or projection of it. A kind of three-dimensional shadow of a four-dimensional object. In this shadow, the tesseract looks like a cube within a cube, with lines connecting their corners. To a four-dimensional being, this shape would be as ordinary and understandable as a cube is to us. They'd see all sides of it at once, not as a shadow but as a solid structure in their own higher dimensional space. Let's push the imagination further. Imagine a four-dimensional being entering our world. To us, this being would seem to move in extraordinary ways. Picture them reaching into a closed box and pulling out a key without opening it. How? They'd move through a direction we can't perceive, bypassing the inside and outside of the box altogether. We'd see the key appear in their hand as if from thin air. For us, it would seem like magic, yet to a four-dimensional being, it would be as effortless as reaching across a table. To them, our closed box wouldn't hide its contents. No object would ever really be inside or hidden. They'd see every part of it, inside and out, simultaneously, as easily as we can see the front and back of a book cover. Now, consider how these beings might perceive things. In three dimensions, we see only the surface of objects. If we look at a closed box, we know something's inside it, but we can't see it without opening the box. A four-dimensional being would see all parts of the box and everything inside it at once. Imagine looking at a house and seeing every room, every piece of furniture all at once from every angle. Privacy as we know it would be non-existent. Nothing would be hidden, and no secrets could be kept in this world. Locked doors, safes, walls, they'd all be pointless. To a four-dimensional being, everything would be an open book. This perspective would grant them capabilities we can only dream of. Let's take something simple, like a knotted string. In our world, untying a knot takes time and effort. We have to carefully pull and maneuver each loop. But in the fourth dimension, a four-dimensional being could simply pull the knot up out of its tangled state by moving it through that extra direction. They wouldn't need to untie it in the traditional sense, they'd just reach into that fourth dimension and pull the knot apart instantly. Imagine them doing this with objects too. A locked box could be opened from the inside out, or they could flip a solid object's shape and orientation in ways that defy our logic. To them, these things would be as easy as flipping a piece of paper is to us. So, what else would change in a four-dimensional world? Picture how we experience time. We see time as a sequence of events, past behind us, future ahead of us. But some theories suggest that in a higher dimension, beings might perceive time differently, perhaps even seeing it all at once. Imagine being able to experience every moment of your life simultaneously, as if your entire timeline was laid out before you, not as memories or predictions, but as a full reality in every moment. In the fourth dimension, they could theoretically move through time differently, seeing it almost as a landscape instead of a one-way path. They'd have a perspective on our lives, and possibly even their own, that we can't imagine. If these beings could interact with us in our three-dimensional world, they'd seem almost godlike. They could reach through walls, make objects appear and disappear, and see every part of us and our surroundings with no effort. To us, their abilities would look supernatural, bending the rules of physics as we know them. But to them, this would be normal, just a part of everyday life. Our concept of privacy would seem absurd to them, and the barriers and boundaries we rely on would be meaningless. Think about how their world might look. It would be a place of seemingly endless layers, where objects aren't bound to simple shapes, where inside and outside blend together, and where movement and perception happen in ways that stretch our minds to the limit. Their cities, their structures, their interactions with each other, everything would be different. And for us, it would be like watching a scene from science fiction. But in the end, maybe it's not so far from science fact. We may never fully grasp the fourth dimension, but with a little science, a little imagination, and a lot of curiosity, we can glimpse the possibility of a reality beyond our own. So, while we may be limited by our three-dimensional view, the idea of a fourth dimension invites us to imagine, to stretch our understanding, and to realize just how vast the unknown really is. It's a reminder that, as advanced as we think we are, there may always be another layer, another perspective, another dimension waiting to be discovered.